Hidden Blood by W.C. Tuttle, as read by Late Night Mark. Chapter 1. Hash Knife has rheumatism in his leg. If I had rheumatism like you got, I'd sure head for the hot springs. You can boil it out easier than any other way. The owner of the Paiute leaned back, braced his bony elbow on the bar, spat wisely, and squinted at the two cowboys who were draped against the bar beside him. Hash Knife Hartley, a tall, thin, serious-faced cowboy, was standing on one leg, much in the attitude of a stork, except that his knee naturally bent the other way. Sleepy Stevens, Hash Knife's partner, was of medium height with a grin-wrinkled face and serious eyes. There was nothing colorful nor romantic about their raiment or physical appearance. They were clad in well-worn overalls, nondescript shirts, high-heeled boots, and sombreros. Their cartridge belts were scarred and weathered, as were their holsters, from which protruded the plain and wood butts of a single-action Colt six-shooter. They wore no coats. Hash Knife's vest was very little more than a wrinkled piece of cloth, suspended string-like from his shoulder, affording him pocket room for his tobacco and cigarette papers. "Which way do you head for the hot springs, partner?" asked Sleepy, making cabalistic marks on the scarred bar top with the bottom of his wet glass. "I'm going to put this lean partner of mine on to boil." I'll be right there," protested Hash Knife, flexing his aching leg. "You won't be until you are," flared Sleepy. "You can't ride a horse that way. I've done used up a bottle of horse liniment on you, and all it's done is make you smell. Rheumatism ain't no fun," thus the proprietor. "I sure had it ache hell out of me a few years ago." "Did you go to the hot springs?" asked Sleepy. "I sure did. I went up the hog hole and built out there. That sulfur water smells like all the bad eggs in the world had busted, but it knocked my rheumatism." "Where's this here hog hole?" asked Hash Knife, interested. "South of here, about 30 miles. I don't know whether you can use the springs now or not. Belongs to Big Medicine Hockworth, and he ain't so friendly as he might be. We'd take a chance on him if Hash Knife was able to ride that far," said Sleepy. "You might go by stage. She comes through here about midnight and changes horses here. On account of the heat, they make the drive from Caliente at night. They go to Pinnacle. But in your case, they may swing around by Hockworth's place and let you off. If they don't, it's only 2 miles from Pinnacle." "That sounds good to me," declared Sleepy. "How does she listen to you, partner?" "Well, all right, Sleepy. I'd go any place to rid that ache that's twisting my muscles. I ain't slept for 3 nights and days hand running. If this Hockworth person tries to deny me my chance to boil the pain out of my carcass, I'll try to make him see the error of his ways." "He probably will deny you," said the proprietor. "Come on, let's see if supper's ready." Paiute consisted of one building, a long, low adobe structure separated into 3 parts: a saloon, a dining room, and a kitchen combined, and a place to sleep. Behind this long building were shed-like stables, corrals, and a well. Its only excuse for existence was the act as a stage station, or for night having for those who traveled the road from Caliente to Pinnacle. Paiute was always hot, except for night. To the north, the road disappeared through mesquite-covered flats, while to the south it twisted higher into the hills, rocky hills, where grew stunted pine, pinyon, and juniper. Down into the land, where law had little sway, where only a range of hills separated them from the land of the Manana. Hash Knife managed to limp into the dining room, assisted by Sleepy, flopped into a chair, and did justice to feed of tortillas, frijoles, and coffee. "You ain't natives down here in this here country, are you?" asked the proprietor. "What makes you think that?" grinned Sleepy. "Just seeing you blowing on your frijoles. You can't cool a chili pepper by blowing on it, partner." "My mistake," grinned Sleepy. "The dang things are hot. Need 'em inside you down here. Hot food is the stuff of this climate. Eskimos would explode on it. Never been over in Hog Hole, have you?" "Never heard of it," said Hash Knife. Town of Pinnacle was over there. Ain't much of a town. Lots of mines back in the Greenhorn country, and they all outfits down in Pinnacle. Old Big Medicine Hockworth owns most of Hawk Hole. Stage line does quite a business, hauling supplies, miners, and the kind of folks that clutter up in a mining town. Pinnacle ain't actually in the hole, kind of on the rim of it. Them hot springs are sure good for rheumatism, you betcha. There's a cold spring there too. Big Medicine has been there for 25 years, and he's sure hooked up on most of the place. Does he run any cattle? Asked Sleepy. Yeah, he has a tumbling H-iron. The hole is a dandy place to run cows, except that she's almost too close to the border. We might get a job, smiled Sleepy. I'd punch cows while you boil out, Hash Knife. Yeah, you might, agreed the proprietor. But I'm betting you won't. Big Medicine will probably tell you that you can't take a soak in his hot springs and tell you to get the hell off of his place. He's an old squaw man, meaner than hell. Some folks say Big Medicine is English from the old country. We don't see much of him. He's been out here just once since I've been in Paiute. I've heard folks say that he's crazy. I don't know whether he is or not. I do know that he wants folks to leave him alone, and they most always do the second time. Hashknife grimaced with pain as he shoved back from the table and tried to cross his knees. Does this Big Medicine person mind his own business? He asked. Well, I suppose so. Down in this country, you can hear all kinds of talk. Yet most it goes into one ear and out the other. Being as I ain't no ways situated where I can talk a lot about my fellermen and keep my scalp where it belongs, he ain't never bothered me, so I'd say he's all right. Hashknife and Sleepy did not ask any further information. They were in strange country, whither they had drifted, wanderers into cattle country of the Southwest. They had found things little different from those in Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, except for the desert stretches, styles of architecture, and lack of streams. All had been well till Hashknife contracted rheumatism, which had crippled him so badly that he suffered keenly in riding. Sleepy had doctored him to the best of his limited ability, but the pain had grown steadily worse, and they both knew that it was a case of seeking medical assistance at once. The arrival of the midnight stage interrupted their three-handed game of 7-Up. It required 4 horses to haul the heavy stages over the grades ahead, and the proprietor assisted in changing the teams. The driver was a big, gruff Norwegian with a big beard and a heavy head of hair, which stood up on his head like a roach of a grizzly bear. The only passenger was a young man, well-dressed, black hair, with thin, dark face. He was hardly past 20 years of age, but his mouth and eyes already showed lines of dissipation. He drank whiskey at the bar and climbed back into the stage, while Hashknife and Sleepy were tying their horses at the boot. "You got the rheumatics?" asked the driver when he noticed that Hashknife had difficulty getting aboard. "That's what she feels like," grunted Hashknife. "I never had it before, but they say she acts like this." "Yeah, she does. You go to Pinnacle, eh? So the hot springs, eh? All right." His long whip snapped into the moonlight, and the 4 horses sprang into life. The stage to Pinnacle went lurching and grinding up the grades, swinging wide on the narrow turns, where a driver is only allowed one mistake. Over the top of the hill, they swung back into another valley, a fairyland in the blue of the moonlight. The road was rough, badly engineered as to grades. But the driver swore in his own tongue, plied his long whip without stint, and threw his weight on a protesting brake on the steep pitches. The young man had nothing to say. He smoked innumerable cigarettes and huddled down in his seat. Hashknife suffered in silence, while Sleepy whistled unmusically between his teeth and cursed the driver. "He's hit every rock so far," he told Hashknife. "I'll bet even money that this damned equipage don't hold together to reach Pinnacle." Sleepy turned to the young man. "Have you ever been on this road, partner?" The young man removed his cigarette. "No," he said. "Think you'll ever go again?" "Maybe." Sleepy laughed and stretched out his leg. "You won't never get hung for talking too much." "What you mean?" asked the stranger coldly. "Oh, hell." Sleepy shifted his seat and rolled a cigarette. Hashknife forgot his pains long enough to laugh. Thereafter all conversation ceased, except for the driver. Stretches of smooth road lulled the passengers to sleep, only to shock them back with lurching bumps that even drew profanity from the lips of the driver. The road wound down the side of a mountain, twisted around heads of deep, heavily timbered draws, and out into the moonlight points, where far below stretched the haze of Hawkhole. Here the roadbed was more smooth, and the passengers dozed. Suddenly the driver swore viciously, shoved on the brake until the wheels almost skidded off the grade. Sleepy was slung off of his seat, and he fell across Hashknife's lap, colliding with the stranger. For several moments they were confused, dazed, and when they turned to open the windows of the stage, they looked into the muzzles of two shotguns, which were plainly defined in the moonlight. "Stay just where you are," ordered a clear voice. "We can see you plenty plain, gents." The hold-up men had their backs to the moon, which flung its rays into the stage, and Sleepy knew that a motion towards his holster would invite one or both of those shotguns to send a wicked shower of lead into them. "Lift up your hands," ordered the voice again, and all three men complied. "Now get out of there one at a time." Sleepy came out first and lined up against the side of the stage, while behind him the stranger. Sleepy's holster had twisted behind him. It was difficult for handshakes to get out. The men swore at him for his slowness. "He's got rheumatism, dang ya," snorted Sleepy.
"Excuse me,"
laughed one of the men. "Now line up." One other man was helping himself to the strong box, while the driver sat solidly in his seat. Arms reaching towards the sky, he yanked the strong box out across the front wheel and let it fall into the dirt. The man who handled the box was carrying a revolver in one hand, and now he came back to those who were watching the passengers. The men were all masked. The man with the revolver looked at the passengers closely. Suddenly, and with apparently no reason, he threw up his revolver and fired point blank at the stranger. The action was so sudden, so uncalled for, that Hashknife and Sleepy instinctively ducked. "Stand still, damn you!" roared one of the shotgun men. The stranger went to his knees, groped blindly for a moment, and sprawled on his face. For several moments not a sound was heard. Then the man who fired the shot shoved his gun back into his holster. "The damn fool reached for his gun," he said slowly. "Shoved the rest of 'em back into the stage." Hashknife turned and climbed back inside while one man picked up the strong box and walked around the team. Sleepy got inside, menaced by those two guns, and sat down. The two men turned and started around the team, while Sleepy swore softly, swung his belt around, and jerked out his gun. "Take it easy, partner," cautioned Hashknife. "They never hurt us." "They killed that poor devil," replied Sleepy angrily. "He never tried to pull a gun, Hashknife." Sleepy stepped outside, gun in hand, but the men had disappeared. The driver was starting to get down. "Hold up, I'm a son of a gun," he snorted as he almost fell off his hub. Sleepy knelt down and examined the stranger. He was breathing heavily, painfully, and was unconscious. "Well, he ain't dead," declared Sleepy. "How far is it to town, driver?" "About 6 miles. I've never held up before. I'm a son of a gun." "Put him in here," ordered Hashknife. Sleepy and the driver lifted the wounded man inside and eased him into his seat. He was limp as a rag, so Sleepy sat beside him, holding him upright.
"Drive as fast as you can,"
ordered Hash Knife.
"This man needs a doctor right now."
"You bet," agreed the driver. "I'll go like hell." He was as good as his word. Hash Knife and Sleepy were not at all faint-hearted, but that driver brought prayers to their lips before the running team reached the bottom of Hog Hole. In fact, he had caused Hash Knife to forget about his rheumatism. "How are you standing it, Hash Knife?" asked Sleepy.
"He either scared or bumped it all out of me,"
replied Hash Knife.
"I'll bet you there are some things that even rheumatism won't stand for, I reckon."
"We ought to be close to town. That driver said 5 or 6 miles, and we fell that far." In a few minutes they drove into the sleeping town of Pinnacle and stopped in front of a stage station. Daylight was flooding the hill now. A sleepy-eyed individual opened the door of the stage office and came out to them. Across the street glowed the dim light of an oil lamp over a poker game. Somewhere a cheap phonograph screeched a tune, following a squeaky announcement that it was being sung by so-and-so for the so-and-so. Phonograph Cook Company, and of New York and Par Paris. It did not take the excited driver long to blurt out the fact that he had been held up, robbed of the strong box, and that he had a dying man inside the stage. The sleepy-eyed one snapped into life. He turned around twice, evidently undecided just what to do, and did nothing.
"Your best bet is to take the fellow to a doctor," declared Hash Knife.
"That's right," agreed the sleepy-eyed one. "Doc Henry lives just outside of town, Pete. He ain't such a damn good doctor, I don't suppose, but he's all we got. Say, the sheriff is here. I think, anyway, he was here last night, and maybe he's over there at the poker game right now. Let me look." He ran across the street into the saloon, and he was back in a minute, followed by a short, heavy man who questioned the driver regarding the affair. "Is this man still alive?" he asked. "He won't be if you don't quit yapping and get him to a doctor," declared Sleepy. The sheriff came closer and peered into the stage. He was a serious-looking person, round-eyed with a heavy mustache. After a short inspection, he nodded and turned to the driver. "Take him to Dr. Pete." "You go along, Sheriff?" asked the driver. "No, I can't. I'm writing a big pot. See you later." He turned and hurried back across the street while the stage went on down to the doctor's house. Dr. Henry answered their door knock, arrayed in a nightgown and blankets, and told them to bring the man into the house. An examination showed that the young man had been shot through the left shoulder, and the bullet was still in him. He had lost considerable blood, but the doctor assured them that the wound was not necessarily fatal. "I don't know him," replied the driver, in answer to the doctor's question. He ride from Caliente. He say something about San Francisco. He don't talk much. Maybe somebody know him here." They left the doctor and went back. Pinnacle was beginning to wake up now. The driver let Hash Knife and Sleepy have a space in the stable for their horses, and offered them a bed at the rear of the stage office. "That damn hotel no good," he told them. "Too much bug. You have a good bed in my place, cost you nothing." They thanked him kindly and accepted the offer. Hash Knife's rheumatism was less painful now, and while Pinnacle awoke to the fact that the stage had been robbed and a man shot, Hash Knife and Sleepy burrowed down in a fairly good bed and forgot that such things as wounded men and stage robbers ever existed.